Talking to myself again, but it's the only way.
Good morning and welcome to NUFC Matters. Please be aware that this is a pre-record, so it is not live. We've recorded this on Friday, but it's morning to Mick Lowes. How are you, Mick?
Yeah, good morning. Eunice has set sail, so we are pre-recorded, courtesy of Eunice.
Yeah, courtesy of Eunice. And let's look back at last weekend, Mick. First of all, Newcastle United took on Aston Villa. Again, a game which only a matter of weeks ago we were probably looking at and fearing. But Newcastle did a number on Villa. It wasn't pretty. It was hard earned. Good old fashioned 1-0 win. Kieran Trippier through the wall. But yeah, hey, another 3 points.
Absolutely. I mean, it is, I think we've said many times over the months, it is a remarkable place and a remarkable change that happens, the world of football, just when you think that it's doom and gloom, all of a sudden you don't hit one, you don't hit two, you hit 3 London buses and you get 3 wins on the bounce and you think, where do they come from? And to be fair, I mean, all right, let's be honest, Everton, Leeds and Aston Villa aren't the greatest Everton, Leeds and Aston Villa we've known over the world. But at the same time, as I mentioned last week, psychologically, they're huge wins. If you beat Everton, if you beat Leeds United and you beat Aston Villa, you're beating proper football clubs. I mean, I don't want to, as I said last week, I don't want to be disrespectful that we're beating Brentford or we're beating Norwich or we're beating, I don't know, Wigan once upon a time or West Bromwich Albion or whoever, but these are 3 proper football clubs. They would desperately, Everton, Leeds and Aston Villa, they would desperately want to be where the likes of West Ham are on Saturday afternoon. And we'd all want to be where West Ham are on Saturday afternoon. And that's an interesting point as well, because if we can win 3 games, if with good ownership and with a better squad of players, with this, with that, with a little bit of good fortune, anybody, an Everton, a Leeds, an Aston Villa, and most importantly for us, a Newcastle United. If West Ham can be a West Ham, then Newcastle can be a West Ham. Newcastle can be a 4th place team, a 5th place team. I was just quickly looking at the stats this morning, Steve. Newcastle United have been beaten at home as many times this season as West Ham United have. So, West Ham United at home aren't the greatest in the world. They've lost 4 times, but the same number of teams, the same number of games that Newcastle have won this season. So there's not a million miles away. Okay, West Ham have won more games. Yes, Newcastle have drawn more games at home. But between them, the pair of them, West Ham United and Newcastle United, have both been defeated 4 times at home this season. So, there is food for thought on this little run. Okay, West Ham will be the most difficult of Leeds United away and Everton and Aston Villa at home. But confidence is a huge thing. Confidence is a huge thing. And go there, give it a go. Who knows? 4 Premier League wins, bounce to bounce, for the first time in 4 years. How good would that feel at the old Olympic Stadium on Saturday afternoon?
How tough is it going to be for Newcastle without Kieran Trippier? The reports on Friday morning are positive in the sense that Eddie Howe says he will play again this season.
Yeah.
He's going to be an influence in the dressing room and in the training ground. And news about Manquillo as well, which we've been talking about all week, is positive. He won't be at West Ham, but the injury isn't as bad as first feared, and they expect him to be back in the first team sooner rather than later. But how big a miss is Trippier going to be?
I'm gonna. No, I don't think I'm gonna upset people, because I think Newcastle United fans are bright enough and intelligent enough to know, as much as Kieran Trippier has been a phenomenal signing, will be a phenomenal footballer for Newcastle United for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever. I talked about that first morning that I believed he would be captain, and I still believe he will be captain. The manner that we've seen about the guy, he's then chipped in with 2 free kicks as well. Now he's injured long term. But I've got to be brutally honest, Steve. If you're gonna miss a key player, I'm sorry to say, I'd rather miss a right fullback than I'd miss a centre forward, that I'd miss Alan Shearer at Goodison Park on that pre-season all those years ago at Goodison Park, Everton, or if I missed Guimarães, or if I miss, dare I say it, an ASM. If I saw a real outstanding player, and most importantly, and again, this is slightly contradictory because Trippier's got the winning goals in the last couple of games, I'd rather miss a goal scorer than I'd miss a right back. And what you've said, you've made a very good point there. The thing about Kieran Trippier is, we'll still be around the body. He'll still be around the building. He'll still be around the players. I think, he'll still be there geeing people up. So, yes, he can't pick his games. Yes, he can't play on a Saturday afternoon or a Wednesday night or a Tuesday night. And yes, we would dearly love Kieran Trippier. But I have to say, I would be more worried if Kieran Trippier was our equivalent of a number 9 or a number 8 or a number 10, I have to say. But it is a body blow. It is a body blow. Just psychologically, he's given everybody a lift, Steve. He's given everybody a huge lift. He's given the football club a huge lift. It's not just about he's Kieran Trippier. He's a fullback. He's chipped in a couple of full with free kicks. What he's done is he's almost single-handedly, that kid has lifted Tyneside. Everybody has got a smile about their place. Everybody's talking about Kieran Trippier. So it's an absolute, it's a body blow. But he's a right fullback, and yes, he's going to come back. Yes, he's going to get better, and it could have been worse. It could have been worse. That's all I would say.
Yeah, certainly could have been. Chris Wood still chasing that elusive first goal. Almost had it. He had his hands on the ball when Newcastle were awarded what we thought was a penalty, but then VAR said it was a free kick outside the box, which of course Trippier then scored from. Yeah. Do you think he would have scored the penalty, and how desperately does he need the goal?
Well, needing a penalty is an understatement. Needing a goal is an absolute understatement. And the fella is desperate for it. And what we know about footballers and what we know about human beings is, the harder sometimes in life you try, the worse it gets. I think the lad basically just needs to relax. He just needs to just calm down a bit, just worry down a little bit. It's probably, and this often helps, it often helps away from home rather than at home. I remember I talked about it the day that he arrived, and talked about that first afternoon when he was going to walk out with 52,000 at St. James's. I mean, he's never been in an arena like it, whether we like it or not. He hasn't. He just hasn't. It's as simple as that. And he's had 2 of those back to back now. 50-odd thousand at St. James's. Everybody screaming, everybody bawling. So maybe an away game will help. I'm sure it will help. West Ham United, tough game, but I mean, we saw them recently against Kidderminster. And sometimes, at set plays, they can be a little bit vulnerable as well. So at set plays, if we can deliver right ways for Chris Wood, we might be in a position to help him. But that's what he needs more than anything. He needs helping. He needs a goal. He needs a goal because, again, going back to the adage about you win 1 game and then London buses come along and you win 3 games. It's exactly the same. of talking to Alan Shearer years and years. You talk about Shearer, even Shearer, and he very, very rarely went without scoring goals. But invariably, like most strikers, once you get one, suddenly you get two, then you get three. And before you know it, you've got 5 in 8 or 5 in 7. So he desperately needs it. The other factor, Steve, is whether we like it or not, and this has got to be, we've got to be honest about this. As well as we've won these 3 games, and we've been in a position now where we're in a really nice place, compared to where we were 6 weeks ago. We're still not scoring from open goals. We talked about it before the Everton game, where they scored 3 and there was barely an open goal in it. There was a tap in, there's the free kick, and then of course there's the own goal as well. Then of course we get the Aston Villa game, and again it's a very strange free kick. I mean, I don't know for the life of me what Steven Gerrard and Aston Villa are doing, but either way we're quite happy with it. But again, we've been dependent upon Kieran Trippier to get the only goal of the game. So again, we've not scored a goal from open play. So as well as it's been, there has been that slight worry about we need to score goals. We need to score goals. So we're not talking about necessarily only about helping Chris Wood, although that's important. We just need a help from whether it be Ryan Fraser. I mean, Ryan Fraser used to nick the odd goal at Bournemouth. Shelvey's capable. Joe Willock, of course, who's come on much better, and has been rewarded by Eddie Howe for being kept in the side. And then, of course, ASM. So we have got a little bit of firepower in terms of goals other than Chris Wood, but we have to do that, because, I mean, even if we wanted to be as blatant and as bleedingly obvious as the fact that the guy who scored the goals for the last 2 or 3 games is injured now for the best part of 2 months, Kieran Trippier, so he's not going to score. So we need that. There's another option that we need to score goals starting at West Ham on Saturday.
Big Dan Burn, as far as debuts go, how did he impress you?
I can't contradict myself. Sorry, Steve. I can't contradict myself, because I did say that when I thought he signed, in an ideal world, I would want a bigger hitter. I still think that there are pre-contracts in mind for centre-backs in the summer, and they've been put to one side. And we've just at the end come up with Dan Burn as an option to fill places. But I genuinely would have wanted centre-backs of a bit more pedigree. Now, yes, he's done very well against Aston Villa. Yes, he was man of the match. But to be honest, let's be brutally honest, he was the only real contender in terms of man of the match, because it was such a poor game. It was a rank bad game of football. I mean, Steven Gerrard, quite rightly, was absolutely, I mean, he couldn't believe how bad Aston Villa were. We weren't great either. We nicked a goal. And as a result, if you think about, I mean, Coutinho was barely in the game, and as a four, I cannot remember Martin Dubravka making a save, Steve. So Dan Burn didn't have an awful lot of done. Now, that's not his fault, but what he did capably. What he did, he plays the ball about. Yes, he's 6'7", but he can play a ball. But he didn't have an awful lot to do. He didn't have an awful lot of pressure. So we didn't really see the relationship with he and Shah. What happens with Lascelles against West Ham will be interesting, because Lascelles is the skipper. I've talked about the loyalty of Eddie Howe, but that might be the one that he might just put a question against Jamal Lascelles, rather than everybody else has been left out. He might just bring Lascelles back in. I don't know. My thought is unlikely. But going back to Dan Burn, we'll see more of Dan Burn. That, the bottom line is, Steve, I don't think we should get excited. And this is what I'll never do either way. I'll neither get excited in terms of how much better a player is until I've seen them 6, 12, 18 games. I don't want to see anybody after 1, 2, 3 games. Trippier is slightly different. I mean, the guy's a phenomena. But the other players, I think Dan Burn, let's wait for 2 or 3. Let's wait for 3 or 4. Let's see if he's the real deal. Or even if he's not the real deal, let's just see if he's going to put us through a decent centre-back partnership with whoever it be, whether it be Shah or whether it be Lascelles, between now and the end of the season, we stay up, we keep ourselves in the Premier League, and then worry about what Dan Burn does next season. But in terms of Villa, he was capable. He was capable. I'll say no more than that.
A lot of the talking amongst the fans is, of course, about Bruno. We haven't really seen a great deal of him. He came with a high pedigree. But you've already touched on it at the start of the programme. Willock is now starting to realise the potential that we could see. And the reason that we actually bought him, Shelvey is playing the best football, I would say, of his career in a black and white shirt at Newcastle. And Joe Linton is probably, it's been the biggest U-turn of them all. And yeah, you don't really want to break that up.
No.
And if you add Fraser to that, who is running his socks off, he's doing what Terry Hibbert probably used to do when Supermac was playing, running himself into the ground for the cause. It's very difficult to bring Bruno in, isn't it?
And I'll tell you what you need to we need to say, and I'm 99, barely 100% sure if I think about this, if we were to speak privately to Eddie Howe, I'm sure he would back this. I think it's an absolute blessing. It's an absolute blessing for Eddie Howe that he's been allowed the ability to bring Bruno Guimaraes in. He's been able to bring him in to the training ground. He's been able to bring him into a little bit of English. He's been able to bring him into getting ready for somewhere to live. He's got ready to bring into something to acclimatize, to get knowing about the city, get knowing about the place. He's got used to it. He's getting used to it. He's getting a week. He's getting 2 weeks. He's now getting 3 weeks. Steve, it's a godsend. It's a godsend. Imagine me and you going to Argentina or Peru or Brazil to go and do the jobs we do. Imagine walking into streets and supermarkets and places to live. It's another world. It's another world. Now, what this lad is doing, and he's 24. This is the other thing. He's 24 and he's a proven player. So Eddie Howe doesn't have to worry that he's got, let's hope we all have, he's got 10 years to play as a black and white striped shirt. We also know as well, he's a player of great pedigree. So you don't even have to worry about get a look at him, find out what he can do, what he can't do. We know what he can do. But what we're doing in the meantime is we're keeping Joe Willock, John Joe Shelvey and Joe Linton happy, hungry and playing well. And you just keep that to as long as, and the one thing I was told about Guimaraes in the sort of week leading up to his signing, what I kept hearing more than anything that I was most importantly, and it goes back to my point about we didn't need over January, we didn't need great players. What we need were proper people. And I'm told he's a proper person. He's got a proper ability to work properly. So what we've got is a situation, hopefully, of a lad who is honest enough to say, right, I'll just bide my time. He'll get his chance sooner or later. I mean, let's just be theoretical about Saturday. If we're 2-0 down with an hour gone, he comes in, doesn't he? He has to come in. I must admit, because I thought the Aston Villa game was dying a death, even though we were winning 1-0, I was screaming and bawling. I wanted him for the last half hour. I wanted to have a look at him. I didn't think it did any harm, but I could see it. I could see why you're a bit tenuous. You're only leading 1-0. You've got a side that are playing well, that have kept a clean sheet, that is preventing goals for the first time that they've kept for a long, long time now. So I could see why they kept about Guimaraes. But I was quite keen to see him last half hour against Aston Villa. But he will get a chance at some point. He might not get it against West Ham. But at this minute in time, going back to the point I made, it's an absolute godsend for Eddie Howe that he's got Guimaraes, he's got him looking after himself, he's got him settled, but he's got the three players in Willock, Shelvey and Joe Linton playing well and looking after themselves. There's no need at this minute in time, no need whatsoever to throw Bruno in. And as I say, he's got years and years and years and years ahead of him.
Yeah, no, he has. But I lost you there, mate. I think it was my internet end, but I got you back.
Okay.
Yeah, I think as well, a lot of the chatter this week on the timeline on Twitter has been about, Newcastle have won 3 games in a row, and it's easy to get carried away. People saying we need a bigger stadium, we need this.
Yeah.
My priority, Mick, I think it should be the training facilities and the training ground, because that is the crux of success, the team. And if the team are training at top class facilities, and the team starts to do better, and gets that elusive trophy, which we're all hoping will happen over the next few years, then then you can start looking at building a bigger ground or adding to the ground or whatever. What's your take on that?
You know what it is? I think this is absolutely fascinating, because this has been going for so long. Well, it was sort of put on hold, but I mean, I just remember I was thinking about this, because I heard an interview that somebody made on maybe the Monday or Tuesday this week, and my thought immediately went back to an afternoon I spent with Sir John Hall. Must be 30 years ago, must be 92, 93 time, might be slightly 93, 94. But anyway, best part of 30 years. And Sir John's got he's got the model there. He's got the model in his office at St James's, for Leazes Park, And it's one of these where, and I remember thinking, oh blimey, because it was Leazes Park, so it's not a million miles away, because St James's at the time was dilapidated, as the Gallagher was a mess, the Leazes was a mess, even the West Stand wasn't great at the time, and if you remember, I don't know if people might not remember this, younger members will remember that the plan, and I saw the model itself, was one of these where the pitch is submerged. Do you know what I mean? So a bit like the Nou Camp, where you come in at stand level, and as you walk in, if you've never been into a football club before, it catches you unawares, because you suddenly look down and the pitch is down below you. So what it necessarily means then is that the stadium and the stands don't have to be huge monumental things. Now, when you think about things like level 7, which is, it's one of the greatest advantages we have at St James's for away fans, because they have to go right up in the gods. They can bet that it's like seeing pin dots and ants playing football, and then they're trying to make noise for their teams. It's fantastic for us to put the away fans up on level 7, but it's not ideal either from terms of facilities. So, but at the same time, it's St James's, and now, of course, it's a proper stadium. I mean, this is, as I say, 30 years ago, it was a mess. It needed changing either way. Obviously, in the end, they decided to change it itself and moved it around. I can see it both ways. I can see why financially it makes a certain amount of sense, but it doesn't make a huge amount of sense. You see, I'm thinking about... here's a good case in point, the game at West Ham. So we all went to Upton Park. I mean, look at it, remember Upton Park? I mean, I can't remember what was the crowd at Upton Park, 24, 25, something like that. Top max, tiny, horrible place, middle of nowhere. You couldn't get there, you couldn't drive there. There was a tube just up on Green Lanes. But it was a million miles away from anywhere. You got battered by the home supporters. It was just tough. It was tough going to Upton Park. So they get moved to the Olympic Stadium, and it's been good for West Ham, but it's not been ideal, has it? There was a resent from the supporters. I've just talked there about the fact that they've lost as many games at home this season as Newcastle have at St James's. So that tells you that the Olympic Stadium from West Ham hasn't been great. The other side of the coin is Arsenal, who have a decent enough stadium, probably around about 40,000, but desperately needed more money, because they needed more people to field it, to more stands, more seats, what, etc. And they moved not a million miles away. I mean, you could throw a stone from the Emirates to good old Highbury. So that works well, the Emirates. So it depends. I think it depends whether it works well or not. But probably more importantly, if we're convinced that we're going to be a big player, if we're going to convince a stadium that needs another 15,000, so maybe we go up to 60, 65, 70. Will we always fill 65, 70? You know, will football always be the great Newcastle United building those stadiums? I mean, Manchester United's have never moved. Anfield's never moved. You know, Manchester City moved, but again, that was that was the convenience of moving to the Commonwealth Stadium in the same way that West Ham moved to the Olympic Stadium. So that was almost contrived for them. It's a difficult one. My gut thought is I'd stay at St James's, but at the same time, if there was if there was something like the new Tottenham Stadium, which again is an absolute fantastic arena, and it is virtually the old White Hart Lane, then that's probably Tottenham's probably the perfect scenario. If we could do a Tottenham, then maybe yes. But if not, I think we stay at St James's.
Yeah, it's going to run that one, certainly for everybody.
What about you? Tell me, what would you do?
I genuinely don't think, we need to improve on the ground just yet, because Newcastle haven't progressed.
We need to know, don't we? We need to know.
We're in a relegation battle, for God's sake. The thing that needs to be addressed, I think, first and foremost, is obviously staying up. Secondly, we need to be able to compete, and we need to be able to compete not only by saying, look at the stadium we've got, look at the fans we've got, look at the ambition we've got, look at the plans we've got.
Absolutely.
But players sometimes come to facilities and can be swayed by that. Yeah. And if you're going into Newcastle United's training ground at this moment in time, then if you're a Champions League football player, you were going to be disappointed, Mick. It's not garbage, don't get us wrong, but
absolutely,
we've seen the images, we've been assured that the paddling pool's been chucked out and that they don't get into wheelie bins now to have an ice bath. But joking aside, that's where we've been for 14 years, and that's what needs to be improved. The current ground is every now and then you're walking up to St James's Park and there's little touches of paint. There's little things being added. There's photographs which have been up 14 years, have been removed, and things are getting replaced. It's slow. It's taking time, but it's happening. And the club is being reborn. But the need to continue this and to get to where the owners are aspiring to be, where the players are now confidently talking about wanting to go to. I mean, we've had Bruno coming in saying he wants to be in the Champions League final. We've had Shelby talking about he wants to be part of this start.
Trippier talked about Europe with Alan Shearer as well. Yeah.
Amazing. It's amazing to hear the players that talking about it. But they need to have the facilities. They need the tools to be able to go to work and do this. So for me, that's my first focus. We've got to have that situation changed, and that's where we're at.
And what's very interesting about just staying with that training point situation, Dan Ashworth. What was Dan Ashworth synonymous to? Very much part and parcel of. Certainly knows it inside out. Works how it operates. St George's Park. The fella knew about St George's Park. Got involved with St George's Park. Now, obviously, our training ground is probably not going to be on a par with St George's Park, but he sees how it works. He sees logistically how a top training activity works with something like St James's Park. So if we get ourselves something along the lines of St James's Park, where they throw in a hotel, so players have to work, they can stay if they need to. They can do this if they want to. He sees concrete evidence of how a proper training ground that the England party used at Newcastle, as Dan Ashworth, it can only help.
Of course it can. Dan Ashworth's arrival, eagerly anticipated. We're just going to play the ads. Thanks to all our sponsors. First up, Spider VPN. For all your internet security, Google Spider VPN. They are the boys to trust. They come up at the top of the Google network search. Thanks also to skipsandbins.com. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy, contract free and pay as you go. Waste collection. Thanks also to L&G Family Funeral Directors 01913897245 and to Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.thegohd.com. Thanks to Arcot Interiors, you can Google them and they come up at the top of the search list also. You can also find them on Heaton Road and they are currently hiring and looking for fitters. So contact Arcot Interiors if you are available to help them with that particular trade. qtechshop.co.uk are the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and also the guys who run our website. Jab Signature, you can find them at jabsignature.co.uk. Thanks to Media Arts for all of our video editing. And thank you to newworkwear.com, the specialists in the supply and branding of clothing for the workplace, for providing me with my new jacket. And if you want to subscribe to the show, hit the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner and you can subscribe for free. We still do 7 shows a week and we do some true crime stuff as well. Hit the thumb up under the video to like the video, click share to your social media and drop into the comments box to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans or to leave a question. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify and other podcast providers. If you put your phone over this QR code, it will take you straight to our website and you become a Newcastle and UFC Matters member. You get a cup, you get a pen, you get a scarf, and entered into our monthly draw where you can win some fantastic prizes. We also do live events, and each pre-match and post-match, you can find us at the Dog and Parrot, and Super Mac gives us a talk about the game ahead. There is good beer, and there is good music, and there is a pool table, and kids are welcome. So get yourself along to the Dog and Parrot each match day in Newcastle City Centre. We also support the food bank on this channel, nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk. You can find the Matchday Bucket, which is operational 365 days of the year, and you can make a virtual deposit. If you want to find us on Facebook, then just search NUFC Matters. We have a page and a group. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, search Steve Wraith. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, search @SteveWraith. If you're going on a staycation this year, it's probably safe to say that Newcastle fans should not go to Brighton because the latest news breaking out of the Daily Mail today indicates that Newcastle are now trying to prize away Brighton's academy manager, John Morling, which, again, you know, we've just been speaking about Dan Ashworth, Mick, but Newcastle really seem to like what Brighton have done, and you can see why.
It often happens, Steve. I mean, I've said this for years and years and years, and I don't just always say it about to necessarily to football. I'm just talking about people in general. People like working with people. I did it. I went to 2 or 3 radio stations, and every radio station I went to, if I could, I took somebody with me who worked with me technically or worked with me as whatever. Do you know what I'm saying? We all do that. We all like working with people who we had a relationship with. It happens. People in newspapers go from newspaper to newspaper to newspaper. People do it in all manner of different working lives because it works. That if you've got a relationship with somebody, you should keep with them. I don't know the guy, never heard of the guy, never heard him as an ex-player, no idea whatsoever. But you wouldn't be at all surprised if it's true. And I'll tell you what else as well. It also, I suppose, it initiates in many ways why Brighton got so upset about Dan Ashworth. I mean, if it wasn't enough that they were jumping up and down about Dan Ashworth, they weren't happy with him. They were trying to keep him. They were desperately trying to prevent him staying, and not just necessarily Newcastle. They just wanted to keep him to the football club because he's such an integral part, or was, of Brighton and Hove Albion. But you just get the impression that they probably knew that not only are they losing their director of football, they're also losing one of their academy members as well. So that wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. And you'd be happy enough with it. I mean, I know over the years, we've been very keen to bring in to Newcastle United with ex-players. I know, Shola, Steve Harper, X, Y, and Z have all been involved in recent years. Prior to that, of course, Pedro was used, Kenny Wharton used. I mean, lots and lots of ex-players have been used at the football club. But sometimes a new broom sweeps clear, and maybe you bring somebody in who has a slightly different angle on it, has a slightly perceptive with it, and obviously Dan Ashworth knows this guy, and obviously don't forget, going back to the England situation, he was a key part of, not only as director of football involved with England and St James's Park. He was also the guy who was making sure that England's under 12s, under 15s, under 16s, 18s, whatever, he was involved in who was coaching with them as well. So he's a key player without a shadow of a doubt. So no, I think people might say, oh, hang on a minute, it seems a bit nepotistic, it seems a bit unnecessary. But I'm all for it. I'm all for it in the same way that I fully believe that it was the right thing to do to go to Saudi Arabia and work with the club out there. Again, like this, do things. They're slightly different. They're slightly slightly kilter, but at the same time, if they work well, then do it. And I think it's probably a good send.
Yeah, no, I do as well. Look, it's certainly had the desired effect for Newcastle in bringing Dan Burn in. Great centre half. I think he will go on to do very well at Newcastle. Ashworth, everybody knows his pedigree, and if this guy's as half as good, then yeah, it's another good addition for Newcastle. VAR, Mick, we haven't spoken about that for a while, but it was quite active at the weekend. I often
what you mean? You mean we won one?
Well, I often say on this show that it's switched off, but fair play for Newcastle. It worked in our favour at the weekend.
Well, it's the oldest saying in life, isn't it, Steve? What comes around goes around. It doesn't matter what we're talking about, whether it be VAR, whether it be the number 367 bus. Whatever it is, whatever comes around will go around. It always happens. So sooner or later, Newcastle were going to get the benefit of the doubt. They got the benefit of the doubt. I have to say, it was very, very, very tight. And I would also say as well, if I'm going to be honest, it was very, very important then that we stayed at 1-0, because second half, we were in danger there. We were in danger. Had it gone 1-1, I would have been fearful. Which is why, as I mentioned earlier, I was tempted for a while to throw in Bruno and just seeing if we can't make it a little bit more livelier than it was, because it was getting so stale, the game. Coutinho was having a little bit of a message in the game that Villa were getting slightly better second half. As it is, they petered out as well, and it ended up as a 1-0. But it just needs sorting, Steve. Either way, it needs sorting, because it's a mess, and it'll be a mess on Saturday. It'll be a mess on Sunday. It'll be a mess next week, and it'll be a mess until the end of the season. And you just keep, as we've said before, you just seriously hope that somebody doesn't lose a game and misses out on 3 points or 1 point, that ultimately they lose a promotion, or they lose a relegation, or they lose a championship, or whatever, because it is a mess. We got through a phase where I thought we'd cracked it. I honestly thought we seemed to have got a head round it. And yes, it's the right thing. Do we go to monitors? Do we not go to monitors? Now, we don't seem to know either way. We don't seem to know whether Stokely Park are working the decisions, whether the referee should be going to monitors, whether the referee should be ballsy enough to say, I'm going to make the decision. I don't quite know what assistant referees, I don't even know what linesmen do in football these days. You may as well just put a robot on out there. So I don't know. It needs sorting either way. But in terms of the Aston Villa game, thank you very much. Thank you very much, VAR, because it was a huge call for us.
Yeah, it certainly was. George Mitchell, of course, who's one of our oldest panelists on NUFC Matters, said it's the one thing he would change about football. It's the worst thing that they've ever brought in, and
I agree.
He goes back to the 50s.
Yeah, it is because it's neither one way or the next way. You know, when we got our head round the fact that yes, let's welcome technology. Let's say, okay, if it's technology, it's technology. If there's a 6 inches or a 1 inches or a piece of toenail, and the line says they're offside, then they're offside. Likewise, of course, the big key one would be goal line technology. Goal line technology is an absolute certainty. Yes. So we bring in technology, but then we get greedy and we want technology and we want the humans again. And you can't have the humans and the robots. You either have the robots and the humans or one or the other. You can't have both. You can't have both because a robot doesn't play with a human and a human doesn't know what to do with a robot. It needs to be binning one way or the other. I think personally, all you need to do is confine yourself to ball line, to goal decisions and offside decisions, because if we start getting involved with handballs and fouls, which are clearly being cheated by players, then we're going to get into an all right of a mess.
Yeah. Another topic of conversation for this week, Mick, is Alan Shearer over the wall. And that's not a free kick. It's the statue.
Yes.
The planning application has gone in with Newcastle City Council, and you can find it online if that kind of thing tickles your fancy. But it is to relocate the existing statue and the erection of a new plinth and demolition of existing plinth and replace the paving. And they want to move it to the bottom of the steps leading up to the southwest corner of the ground, which is a short distance, of course, away from the existence of Bobby Robson's statue. Symbolic, Mick?
Oh, absolute no-brainer. Absolute no-brainer. I mean, it's, I mean, whatever the guy had in his mind or whatever, how antagonistic he wished he wanted to be, Mike Ashley, only he knows, because it's an absolute certainty, an absolute surefire certainty. And I'll tell you something else as well. Yes, Big Al, and I'll throw this one out here. To you, right? You tell me this then. So Bobby has a statue, okay? Big Al has got a statue, but it's going to be moved properly. My own thought is Kevin Keegan should undoubtedly get a statue, because as a player, and particularly for what he did in 1991, then I think Keegan is almost as invaluable, if not more invaluable and I'm going to say this, than Bobby Robson for certainty for me. Big Al, 206 goals, 260 in total, Premier League. Big Al probably edges it. If it was me, I would go on the podium, probably Shearer gold, Keegan silver, Robson bronze. But either way, if there's a Shearer and a Robson there has to be a Keegan. You?
For me, I was furious that they didn't do one of Joe Harvey. And it's not even my era.
Absolutely.
Not even my era.
Absolutely.
They've got Jackie Milburn then.
Good
Jackie
shout.
Milburn deserves to be there as much as Alan Shearer does.
Yep.
You know, two greatest goal scorers we've ever had. In fact, they should probably look at bringing the better Jackie Milburn statue back, because the one that's up there, it's modern art and it doesn't really depict Jackie Milburn. The one that was on Northumberland Street is the better one.
Yes,
and there is another one which Craig Colquhoun, who did the Shearer statue, is also made as well. So there is room for improvement on that. But Joe Harvey, I helped raise £5,000 for that plaque. The club wouldn't invite me to the unveiling of it because obviously I had a bad relationship, as you know, with the previous owner and his incumbent at the time, Derek Lambias.
But there's a Joe Harvey bust somewhere, isn't there?
Well, it's a plaque. It's a plaque.
That's
We helped raise £5,000 towards that. I donated a £5,000 check towards the $10,000 it cost for that on the side of the stand, the Gallagher stand.
That's right.
And it's pathetic. It's nice to recognise him, but it's pathetic. So Joe Harvey, 51, 52, 55 cup finals, and 69. The 69 Fairs Cup, mate. And that should be. I agree with Keegan. Keegan has been monumental. But we also have the potential of, you know, renaming, you know, there's the Sir John Hall stand and there's the Milburn stand. There is another stand which could be named the Kevin Keegan stand. I think a stand naming is sometimes more symbolic these days than plonking a statue outside. But yeah, I agree. I don't think we've mentioned anybody in those in our conversation there that doesn't deserve it. I think, you know, after that it starts to become emotional. You know, people start going on about Pavel, which, you know, I love Pavel, but does Pavel deserve a statue compared to those other names?
But I would very definitely, and I will never ever say anything other than fantastic things about Sir Bobby. But you look at Sir Bobby. Sir Bobby is synonymous to Ipswich Town Football Club. Yes, you could argue about KK with Liverpool. But as a player and as a manager and what he does, I think KK is more worthy than Sir Bobby. Regardless of Joe Harvey and regardless of Big Al and regardless of maybe a couple of floaters. But I think KK is more worthy than Sir Bobby.
I think when ground development becomes something which they need to do or feel the need to do, then I think that's the time to do it. I think you could probably have statues pretty similar to what Arsenal have done with different players. And would like to think in the next 5 or 6 years, we're going to have heroes who actually have won something as well. And that's no disrespect to the players who played and pulled the black and white shirt on, over the last 40 or 50 years. But, you know, we want ideally a photo, a statue of somebody holding a trophy would be fantastic at some point. But we can all hope. It's a one which will always keep fans talking. It's a big talking point, and I'm sure we'll all continue to discuss that over the next few years. Okay, Newcastle.
It's all about opinions, Steve. Now
It is. West Ham away then, Saturday, 12:30 kickoff, live on BT Sports. The away end is chocker as usual. 3,000 tickets sold out. This is our 5th game at this stadium. We've won 3 of the previous 4. Injuries, of course, mean that Trippier, Matt Ritchie and Callum Wilson will not feature in the game. And as I mentioned earlier, Javier Manquillo will also be missing due to injury, but he hasn't been ruled out of the Brentford game next week. Matt Targett is available again for selection. He couldn't play against Aston Villa, of course, because it was his parent club. And as photographs from the training ground have shown, Federico Fernandez is getting closer to returning to training. And we also saw Paul Dummett, Fabian Shaw and Jamal Lascelles also taking part this week. So he's got a few selection issues to sort out, and we'll see what Eddie Howe does. As for West Ham, we haven't heard any updates today yet, but we do know that Kurt Zouma took ill last week. The man who's been in the papers for all the wrong reasons was pulled out of the warm-up last week due to illness, so no idea whether he'll be playing. Chris Kavanagh is the referee, and Jared Gillette is on VAR, which was switched on last week. So we've already touched on it at the start of the show, Mick. Look, West Ham aren't Manchester City. They're not Liverpool.
No.
They're West Ham. We've got a good record down there. Their home record isn't superb this week. They've actually
Yeah.
won, as you said, they've won won more points away from home this season than they have at home.
Yeah.
This is a game we can go into with a bit of confidence ourselves. 5 games unbeaten, 3 wins on the trot.
You would
How do you feel?
yeah. I mean, you'd seriously hope so. I mean, you know, I am a stat man. I spent years using them. I've thrown a couple in today, and they are right because they are correct statistics. But I think more than that, more than the fact that however many games they've won more than they've had at home, we've got a good record there. We've got a good record, and I think psychologically with players in players' minds when they go to stadium and think, "Oh, we know this," and we've talked about when we talked earlier about building new stadiums and some work and some don't work. When you've gone from an absolute, I mean, talk about chalk and cheese, talk about being in the chicken run at Upton Park, right on top of players who you could almost reach out and touch, and then you go to being at the Olympic Stadium and you're miles away, and the atmosphere is not the same. So West Ham have struggled to a large part with their own stadium, and it helps you. It helps you when you go there. You don't feel it as intimidating as Upton Park used to feel it. But they're a decent side. Declan Rice is a player I really like. I think he does very well. Jared Bowen is very close to an England player and is decent. But I agree with you. At the end of the day, they're sort of in a middling sort of European side in a potential run for the champion for the Premier League, which is a one-horse race. Others are, Manchester United 1 week are awful. The next week they're 2-3 points better off than West Ham. West Ham 1 minute you think they're a very good side, a very decent side, and then you watch them in the FA Cup against Kidderminster, and you think Kidderminster gave them an absolute pounding, and somehow they escape by 2, not just 1 but 2 last-minute goals to scare the pants out of Kidderminster and get themselves out to the next round of the FA Cup. So, they are a side who are a bit easy-ozy. They are a bit hit and miss. They're a bit hit and miss. I quite like David Moyes. I'm a huge fan of Kevin Nolan, of course. Nolan's done well there. And here's an interesting one that I meant to mention last week when we were talking about Steven Gerrard and Eddie Howe for the Villa game. It's interesting now that the bottom 5 at the Premier League, Steve, now those bottom 5 sides are all now with British managers. So you've got Frank Lampard, Eddie Howe, Dean Smith, Hodgson, and Sean Dyche. So the bottom 5 of the Premier League are all British owners, all British coaches, all British managers. The top 8, there's only one. There's only the one, and that is David Moyes. So that gives you an idea of how well David Moyes does to keep himself above, those of X, Y, and Z, Guardiola, whoever. So, they're a decent side, but they are capable of beating. I like the fact that Matt Taggart's back. I don't worry in the slightest that at left back we're okay again. I liked him. He's played over 100 Premier League games. Again, we didn't really talk about the transfer deadline too much, but I genuinely thought he was a good acquisition. I think midfield up front is just about sorting itself out. If Chris Wood could get a goal, that would be a bonus. It just boils down to now whether Jamal Lascelles is coming back or whether Shah and Byrne continue. And of course, at right back, does Emil Kraft. So I heard somebody toying with the idea of Fabian Shah playing at right fullback and Lascelles going in at centre back alongside Dan Byrne. I don't see that. I don't see it because
I chucked that into the mix this week. Yeah.
Oh, did you? Oh, right. Okay. Well, I saw it from somebody else as well. And I must admit, I did think, okay, it's not the daftest thing in the world because, invariably, you should really, if you're a good player, and he is a ball player, Fabian Schär. The only thing I would say is that Fabian Schär is a bit lackadaisical. I think with Fabian Schär, you need somebody to get a grip of him. And I think going back to the Dan Burn situation, the thing I did like about him, I don't think we saw enough of him as a centre-back. We didn't see enough of him as a defender because there wasn't very much in the game against Aston Villa. But what I liked about him was he's a screamer and a baller, and he tells people what to do. We haven't got enough of those. We haven't got enough owners. We haven't got enough leaders, So Jamal Lascelles as a captain is not bad at that. But I think Dan Burn is somebody who could get a grip of Fabian Schär and say, hey, get back in here. Start wandering. Because he does. He wanders, he does. He disappears. Dan Burn might just get a grip of him and say, get back here. Stop messing around. So I think if you put him in at right back, that would probably be a worry that he'd be left out on his own. So I think it's going to come down to Dan Burn. I think going back to the loyalty business, when as a football club, you've managed to do what they've done for the last, however, 3 games now, barely conceding a goal, when once upon a time we were throwing them in left, right and centre. I think you've got to keep with it defensively. So I think you probably keep Schär, you probably keep Burn, but I wouldn't be in the slightest bit surprised if Lascelles came in. I don't know.
Prediction, Mick?
Tough one. I think we need to score more than 1 goal. If we can score more than 1 goal, we'll either beat 2-1 or draw 2-2. If we only score once, I think we'll lose 2-1.
I've gone for the Desmond. I'm going for the 2-2. I think Newcastle will get 2 goals. And I think we'll come back with our unbeaten run intact and another point in the bag towards staying up. But Mick, as always, fantastic to share a screen with you. Look forward to catching up with you next week, mate, and chewing the fat.
And you, pal. Take it easy.
Take care, mate.
See you later, mate. Bye-bye.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's